I would like everybody to do your video feed so I can actually see you. And so, and because I really don't like talking to a wall. You know, I really don't like just talking to a blank wall. It really, you know, I like the back and forth. Even if I can't hear you, I can see your face. You could raise your hand, things like that. So, welcome. And on Monday, for the people that were here on Monday, we did scribbling with our non-dominant hand, our dominant hand, and then we did both hands together. And today, what I would like to do, because we have some new people, I'm going to do a little bit of review, but I'm going to start with some science. And because I feel like it's going to give you an opportunity to really understand why we're doing what we're doing. And if you have questions, you can raise your hand. You can send a text to Patricia, who is kind of overseeing this. That's about it. So we want your sound to be muted so that we don't get feedback. But I want to see, you know, if you know, it's okay if you're in your pajamas, it's all right. But I would like to see people. Yes, so that's why I need your video feed. Okay, so I'm going to start off and I'm going to do a little review about and some new stuff about the mind. The subconscious mind, which is the big orange part, that part of your mind is 1,000,000 times faster and more powerful a processor than the conscious mind. But no thinking takes place in that part of the mind. It's Pavlovian. It just reacts and responds to the way that it was programmed in the first 6 years or 7 years of your life. Now, this is the part that's a little scary, at least for me, when I first discovered it, is that your mind in that period of time is in copy and paste. So what you're doing is whenever your system is stressed, this part, we talked about this on Monday, that part of the mind takes over, the orange part, and it will automatically play out the behavior you saw your parents and your siblings do without the control or the observation of your conscious mind. That's where somebody will do something or say something and they'll say, I didn't say that. I didn't do that. Well, it's because this part of the mind isn't aware of it. The only way you can be aware of what this part, what your beliefs are, and the patterns and the behavior you learned, the only way you can do that is look at your life or learn how to suspend that, which is what we're doing with the scribbling. Learn how to suspend that so you can write new neural pathways. That's all we're doing. We're kind of going in and we're saying, I don't like this response. I don't like this behavior. I'm going to put in some new coding. And it looks like we're just scribbling, looks like total nonsense. But, you know, all the scientists that I work with say that, no, this is how you do it. This is how you do it. Because basically what we're doing is this is mindfulness training. You're learning how to feel and know, tell the difference when you're here versus here. And you also know how to activate that. Since you know what it feels like, you know how to get back there. It's like a map. So when you were scribbling with your non-dominant hand or your dominant hand, I kept saying, what does it feel like? You know, what is the difference? You know, because sometimes, you know, scribbling in a certain way is going to give you clarity, and sometimes it's going to give you a calm. Ultimately, the only place you can create your life, you can actively choose to create your life, is in that part of the mind. But remember, it's 1,000,000 times slower and less powerful. And this part of the mind is designed to take over whenever the system is stressed. And considering what we're all living through right now, is that this part is being activated 24/7. So we have to work on doing things to pull ourselves into the conscious mind. And so when I was saying that part of the mind is activated through awe, wonder, and discovery. So discovery is what we're using. We're saying, does it feel better if I go clockwise or counterclockwise? Does it feel better if I do little tiny circles or big circles? Does it feel better if I just use my little fingers here, move my hand, or is it better if I do my whole body? You know, what is it that gives your system the most pleasure? Why am I saying this? Because that is an indicator. When you feel pleasure, it means your brain is dumping oxytocin into the system and dopamine. So that gives you this high. So that's what you're looking for. You're looking for the high. And that's why, you know, really little kids can learn how to do this really quickly because they like the feeling of the high. And so we all do. So it's really about that. So what I want us to do is we're going to start today. We're just going to do some scribbling with the non-dominant hand, the dominant hand, and then both hands together. We're not going to spend as much time as we did on Monday. But I do want us to just go back and review, and pretty much what I'm having you do is just connect to your sensory awareness. Because what happens is that around, 7, 8, 9, we move from moving through the world being guided by our senses to being guided by our brain. Being guided by, you need to behave this way, you need to do this. And so we really, our cultures teach us to kind of disconnect from our, GPS, our internal radar. And what this is doing is helping you go back to that innate intuition that your body has. Your body knows what's right and wrong, knows what you need to do. But we've been taught to listen to the, follow me, do this, do that, follow things outside of us instead of inside of us. And so that's what we want to be doing. So let's start off this morning with, we're going to close our eyes. We're going to take 3 deep breaths again. And then we're going to scribble with our non-dominant hand. Okay? And I'm going to, have some dialogue going here. And the reason I'm doing this is just to kind of keep you in that space of really looking at, this is not mindless scribbling. This is not like, this is using scribbling as a way to really develop your inner reflection. Okay? So close your eyes, take 3 deep breaths. And then with your non-dominant hand, let yourself scribble. Now this can be a slow, methodical thing. It could be really intense. You can be pushing hard. You can, whatever feels the best. And just do it for, a minute or 2 with your non-dominant hand. And then when you have a sense of what that hand wants to do today, then pass the crayon over to your other hand. Take 3 more deep breaths and then see what that hand wants to do today. Because it will change from day to day. When you've finished doing both hands, then just raise your hand so I know, and then I will have us continue through. And like I said, we have this little bit of review from Monday, and then we're going to move on with other stuff. So now we're going to do both hands together. And now remember that when you do both hands together, They do not have to be doing the same thing, but they both have to be moving simultaneously. And what you're doing here is you're activating both hemispheres of the brain together. So both, both the right hemisphere and the left hemisphere, both are trying to find a way to dance and move together. So once again, take 3 deep breaths, and then you want to have a crayon in each hand, and let yourself then explore doing both hands together. So once again, 3 deep breaths. And then let yourself explore. Now, one hand might like doing straight lines. The other might like doing circles or loop-de-loops or figure eights. It doesn't matter, but you want to keep both of them moving simultaneously. And when you have a sense of how your body reacts to that, and before you open your eyes, ask yourself, do you prefer scribbling with your non-dominant hand today, your dominant hand today, or both hands together? And notice that I'm saying today, because it will change depending on your biological needs. When you feel like you are clear on what it needs today, and maybe even why, then just raise your hand, and that way I will know that we can move forward. Great, great. Okay, so I had said that this part of the mind, only when you're in this part of the mind can you create new neural pathways or new behavior. So this is how these two minds work together, is that you learn something here. Remember the first time you drove a car and it was like rear view mirror, the steering wheel, the brake, the clutch, and it's like all this stuff. And now you can just do it like automatically, just like you don't have, you can be doing something else. You can be, eating a sandwich or whatever. But so you learn it here. This part of the mind is really slow, but you learn it. And once it's perfected, then this part of the mind takes over and does it. And so now, when you drive a car, you don't have to think about rear view mirror, this. It just does it. It tracks it automatically. But no thinking takes place here. It's purely, Pavlovian. And like I said before, it operates without the control or the observation of the conscious mind. So when we are scribbling, what we're doing is we are, because of discovery, we are getting this part of the mind to take over. And since I said on Monday that they work in an either or, the minute you activate this is suspended. So, we can have a tape in our body. I had that says that taught us that, the only way that we're going to get love is if we're ill. The only way we're going to get love is if we, behave in a certain way. And so then this plays out. Now, the thing that's important to know is there is the job of this part of the mind is to make sure reality reflects the data. Now, this is really scary for me. Reality, meaning your life, is going to reflect the data. So if you were taught that you were incapable of learning something, or you were stupid, or you were unlovable, or you were fat, or you were, whatever it was, doesn't matter if it's accurate or inaccurate. It is the job of this part of your mind at 40 million bits per second to make sure your life looks like the data. Doesn't matter if the data is right or wrong. So when we're scribbling, what we're doing is we're pulling ourselves into the present moment because we're not spacing out, we're really paying attention. And in this period of time, we can then send new messages to this part of the mind. Now, it's important to understand is that just understanding what I'm talking about cognitively is not going to rewire your mind. Because this part of the mind learns through three things: hypnosis, super learning, and habit. So on Monday, I said, you know, when you're wiping your counter, be scribbling, be paying attention. Do you like going this way with the sponge or that way with the sponge? Do you like doing it with a sponge or a cloth? Do you know, what is the tactile? You want to be in the moment. So we want to give this part some new information. And the simplest way right now is just to use the scribbling. You know, I said scribble while you're stirring the soup, when you're cleaning the toilet bowl, when you're vacuuming. Pull yourself. It's all about changing the percentage. It's all about how much time do you spend here versus here. And remember, all of the stress that's going on in the world right now is pulling you here. And the problem is that then you're not just experiencing the stress of the current moment. All of the patterns, all of the unfinished, unresolved things from your childhood are also choking you. So it's going to make it really, really hard for you to be your best. But if you get in the habit of scribbling, just scribbling, scribble on your body, scribble on your face. Even they tell us not to touch our face. But the important thing is pulling yourself into here, into this place. Okay, so I want to we're going to do the scribbling is the first activity in the I Create What I Believe program. And it actually has three versions. You have the individual hands, and we have the two hands, which we just did. And then we have alternating hands. And alternating hands is not something I teach to young children because it's complex, but I find it to be very, very powerful in terms of maintaining my clarity. And I'll explain why. Because it's really like, it's a conversation. It's a conversation between both hemispheres of your brain. And you'll start seeing that if you approach a situation from your non-dominant hand, which then versus your dominant hand, your energy is different. It's how when you go to talk to somebody, you have an issue. Like if you come in really strong, sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes it's exactly what you need. Sometimes if you come in really soft, it doesn't work, but sometimes it's exactly what you need. So the alternating hands is a way to become really familiar with the kind of energy that is produced when you either doing one hand, the other hand, or both hands together. So it just goes a little deeper, a little more awareness. And ultimately, for me, what it does is it really pulls me solidly into my conscious mind so that, I know where I'm standing. I know what's right for me. And I'm able to just stay in that place, no matter what other response I'm getting from the situation or the other people. So it's like this solidness. And why is that important? The reason it's important is our body is designed to entrain with its environment, but it actually has two environments it can draw from. Our external, which is pretty crazy these days, or our internal environment, which is our authentic self, our soul, you know, however you want to phrase it. So you want to, what you're doing, learning how with the scribbling is how to entrain yourself. It's like when you are in your conscious mind is the only way, only time that you can entrain or align yourself with your soul or your authentic self. So that's, you know, here, you know, there's all these, you know, you're going to have to deal with all the chaos outside, but it's learning how to be in here no matter what is going on outside. So let's do the alternating hands. Like I said, it's like a conversation. So what we do is we close our eyes, we take 3 deep breaths just like before, and then we scribble with our non-dominant hand, but it's not like a big scribble, it's more like you're saying something. And then you let your dominant hand reply. And then you let your non-dominant hand reply. So it goes back and forth. Years ago when I was doing a lot of field testing on this program, before I started, you know, really releasing it out to the public, I had this class, after school class for middle school kids. They were latchkey kids, but it was just, you know, teaching them. And so I was teaching this activity to this group of preteens, and this one kid, this one gal, when we finished the activity, she goes, "Wow, my dominant hand is so bossy." And I'm telling you this because I really want you to start seeing is that there's these different aspects and these different personalities, and that you can tap into it by moving that hand and sustaining that. So if you want to stay soft, but this other part is, you know, really wanting to come in and just be the other way, you can keep your system centered where you want to be. You get that? Okay, so close your eyes, take 3 deep breaths, and what I want you to do is just have a conversation, maybe 2 or 3 times on each side. And when you have a sense of the quality of both sides, then just raise your hand, because, you know, you can explore these things and play with them more. But for right now, I just want you to have a taste of it so you know how to play with it yourself. So close your eyes, take 3 deep breaths, start with your non-dominant hand, let it say something, let the other side respond, and back and forth. Okay, good. All right, great. That's what I was waiting for. Okay, so did you know, can you feel a difference between those 2 parts? Yes. Okay, great. And so what I'm going to really suggest here is that you just try to find places in your daily life where you can incorporate the scribbling. Because once again, this part of the mind learns through hypnosis. So when we're doing the reflective stuff, we're actually doing self-hypnosis. We're using scribbling as a way to move ourselves into a theta brain state. And why? Because those programs went in effortlessly when we were young, because we were predominantly in a theta brain state. So that's what the hypnosis is. The activities, because we're using the brain in different ways, is helping us create super learning. So the activities give us the hypnosis and the super learning. But the third way this part of our brain gets reprogrammed is through habit. So finding little places, little tiny places where you know, are incorporating the scribbling with one hand, the other hand, back and forth, is going to give you habit. The other thing I always recommend people to do, and that is put crayons and paper on the table where you eat. and just scribble or doodle or move something. But it's the movement. It's learning to have this become part of your life so that it can help you change your life.